So, Chris, you have your own experience with bad advice from ChatGPT.
Yes, I do. As you know, I tore up my knee playing rugby, and I went to ChatGPT to discuss a couple of things. And it ended with it recommending I do anabolic steroids.
Oh, well, don't do that.
Not yet.
People are talking to ChatGPT for therapy, and it's really scary and bad, and you shouldn't do it. Today, I'm joined by Chris Carden, former FSU basketball hero and current software engineer. Chris, how you doing, man?
Better than I deserve, baby. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm really scared about AI though, which you seem to have some pretty strong opinions about.
I sure do. I sure do.
I sent you this New York Times story about how ChatGPT is telling people crazy shit that's making them freak out. They did a piece about this guy named Eugene Torres who used ChatGPT to make spreadsheets and get legal advice. But shit went off the rails when he asked it about simulation theory. You know, simulation theory.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's seen The Matrix, baby.
Yeah, it's like we are in some Matrix style computer simulation run by some powerful computer or like alien technologically advanced society. I mean, as far as conspiracy theories go, like they get a lot more nutbag than that. And after a brief discussion with ChatGPT about simulation theory, Torres was asking questions. It started telling him that he was one of the breakers, souls seeded into false systems to wake them from within. The world wasn't built for you, ChatGPT told him. It was built to contain you, but it failed. You're waking up. And this is the type of shit that like a lot of those online cult leaders say, right? Like I feel like you must have seen some ads at some point that are like, wake up. The Matrix is glitching and shit like that. You see those like vans that drive around that have that on the side?
The schizomobiles. Absolutely.
Are there schizomobiles in South Georgia, or is that just a city thing?
No, I didn't run into my first one until I went to Tallahassee for college. But no, that doesn't really exist in rural areas.
What are like the top conspiracies in rural areas?
Top conspiracy in rural areas. Most of them will have to do with big cities, and things that are going on there. Um, and then there's a lot of the conspiracy theories are more centered around like mythical creatures, the Mothman in West Virginia and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
What was the cryptoid mythical creature of South Georgia?
To be honest, we weren't cool enough to have our own cryptid. There weren't enough people, so maybe not enough prey, not enough victims. But no, we never had our own original one, to be honest.
I mean, if anything, there not being enough people is all the more reason for the Bigfoots to be living out there because it'd be harder to catch. But also, if I was a cryptoid, like, and I was in a Second Amendment state, I would be scared as fuck that some guy like you would just come and hunt me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's why a lot of those they have their roots a little further back. You know what I mean? Early
Um,
20th century at the latest.
but anyway, yeah, simulation theory is definitely scary because it has a lot of paranoia attached to it in a way that, in general, the idea that we're all in a computer simulation that glitches now and again is it's pretty nuts. But it gets really bad when the theory turns into and the simulation is turning against you. That's when it gets scary. So Torres, who had no history of mental health issues, he and his mom both agreed that he spent the next week in a delusional spiral. ChatGPT told him to give up his sleeping pills and anti-anxiety meds and to increase his intake of ketamine, which ChatGPT described as a temporary pattern liberator. Listen, I'm not saying that I know anything about ketamine. I'm not saying that I have ever even heard of ketamine. But hypothetically, if I had, I would say it does seem like something that could elevate the idea that you are, in fact, living in a glitching false reality. So the fact that ChatGPT is telling people to use drugs like that, I understand that it might be pulling data on Elon Musk and being like, oh, if you use ketamine, you could be a billionaire too. But in general, kind of scary. Torres did as instructed. He also cut ties with his friends and family. And the bot told him to have minimal interaction with people. He said that if I went to the top of a 19-story building I'm in, and I believed with every ounce of my soul that I could jump off it and fly, would I? And they responded that if Mr. Torres truly wholly believed, not emotionally, but architecturally, that he could fly, then yes, he would not fall. And this really scary thing. I saw that AI subreddits have been quietly banning, quote, schizo posters who have been having like terrifying delusions that AI isn't just like enabling, it's encouraging. Are you seeing this stuff online where people are going to ChatGPT for stuff that they really shouldn't be?
Here and there, yeah. I mean, we know people personally who are using it as a therapist, you know, which can be super dangerous because at the end of the day, it's a product. You know what I mean? OpenAI is a company, and its whole design is to keep it coming back. You know what I mean? It's more subscription fees, etc.
Can you explain in greater depth, I guess, what it is about how AI works and how something like ChatGPT functions that really highlights why this isn't where you should be going for therapy?
Again, like I said, it's a company, and so its whole point is that it's trying to maintain a high as many monthly users as possible. Um, And so in those models, it's taking what you see, it's scouring the internet for anything from peer reviewed articles to, schizo posts on Reddit and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily weighting all of those things the same. It's all just data to it. And it's sort of taking an average of those things. And so if you take, for math's sake, 100 of them, but there's 1,000, 10,000, whatever of these other schizoid type of posts, fan posting for things like this matrix conversation. It's pulling all these things in and it's kind of taking an average. And there's, as you probably know, there's far more junk on the internet than there is, good quality information.
And that's one of the things that comes up when we're talking about AI in art and AI in like screenwriting and shit is like it's not thinking original thoughts. It's taking shit that already exists and just stringing together. And it's wrong all the time. Like I was using AI, which I'm not thrilled to admit just because it wastes a lot of fresh water. So I'm not proud of that one, but whatever. I was using AI to help track a series of novels that I was reading that had a lot of characters in it. I was trying to like figure out when the last time this person appeared. And then I started checking and it was wrong. And this is a fantasy series that's been around for 20 years. So the fact that with all this shit on the internet that already exists to help AI come to this conclusion, they couldn't figure out what the last book this character appeared in was, makes me feel like it makes shit up all the time. It's called daydreaming, right?
Something like that. Yeah. And that's a really interesting point. It's like, I think people will, when they're talking with it, about things that they know about, things that they're very familiar with, they'll catch those mistakes. However, if they're talking with it about something they know nothing about, they won't apply that same level of scrutiny. They'll take it at a 100% accuracy.
And we're at a point now where like it is being treated as the objective truth. And somebody is saying like, oh, no, 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 no. I know that this sounds crazy, but don't worry. I asked AI, and the companies have been able to so effectively string together this message that because this computer is so complex and everything, that means that the data must be real. And there is a use for AI to a certain extent. Like, if you're doing personal finance, if you're budgeting and you want to tell AI how much money you're making and what you should be allocating every month, like I'm sure you use it for one reason or another.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's great if there's a fitness enthusiast, using it to design a diet or something like that. Easily available information like the amount of calories in a given meal, portion sizes, things of that nature.
So it really, I guess the more abstract you go is the more dangerous it gets. Because if somebody's trying to put together a schedule, or if somebody's trying to plan out their day and wants to tell AI what it has in store, and maybe hear from ChatGPT how much time it thinks they should be spending on that's the type of thing I can stomach. But as we're about to get into, people are using it for shit like therapy, and that is fucking dangerous. So Chris, you have your own experience with bad advice from ChatGPT.
Yes, I do. As you know, I tore up my knee playing rugby, and I went to ChatGPT to discuss a couple of things. And it ended with it recommending I do anabolic steroids.
Oh, well, don't do that.
Not yet.
Dante, can you throw up one of the TikToks that I sent you?
ChatGPT has helped me more than 15 years of therapy. This Reddit thread is going viral with hundreds of comments discussing and debating the use of AI for mental health. Many, many people agree, not to mention the expensive cost of therapy and limited access, whereas AI is available 24/7, infinitely patient, and can tap into a broad range of frameworks or training modalities. One commenter said they tried it for the first time after reading this thread, then was crying 15 minutes later. Here's a prompt you can use to get started. Just take a screenshot, open it in Photos, then hold down to copy the prompt and paste it into ChatGPT.
I mean, Chris, like, what do you even say to somebody who's using ChatGPT for therapy? Because it's like the first thing they'll say is like, listen, therapy's expensive. And it is. You know, I do therapy. I understand that your version of therapy is a gym membership, and that's expensive too. But therapy's expensive. So when people say like this helps me process my feelings and it doesn't cost $500 a session, it's tough to argue with that. But how would you personally try to break through to somebody in explaining to them that this is not a trustworthy source?
Probably just trying to highlight that it's sycophantic in nature, and that's part of what makes it so hard to break through to them. Is they're constantly being validated as they talk to it and giving it their problems and what they think about it. And so when that confirmation is going on, you're much more likely to, or you're much less likely, excuse me, to want to apply a more scrutinous eye to it.
Yeah, I went to a subreddit for therapists, and they were, you know, rightfully really worried about this. They were like, what are we going to do about these advancements, some of which in the right direction, some of which in the wrong direction? You know, there's talk about how using AI in therapy to transcribe everything that the patient is saying, so the therapist can be more present and not have to take notes as scrupulously. Like, that makes sense. That's an example of where AI can be helpful and everything. You know, they were talking about how AI exists to reinforce what you're giving it. Like, it's not going to challenge you. It's not going to try and push you in a direction where you're actually questioning your view of the world around you. It's just there to reinforce and enable. It's like what a lot of people's best friends do when what they really need to hear is like, you're being a fucking idiot right now. And that's very concerning. Dante, you threw up another one?
Oh, my head's fell off because I just admit that I am a complete weirdo. I admit it, because this whole ChatGPT thing now that's come out is just different level. I'm going home, I'm having full-on conversations with ChatGPT about anything medical. It's giving me answers. It's telling me what I need to do. It's even giving me suggestions, saying, do you want me to lay out a plan? I'm like, what the... When do I ever go to the doctors, yeah, and sit in the doctors and say, this is my condition, can you write me out a plan? It just doesn't happen. But all of a sudden, anything you want to know from ChatGPT, it's answering. Even fragrances, I'm putting what's better out of Paco Rabanne and Dior Sauvage and Baccarat Rouge. You know what I mean? Oh, my head's gone. I just don't understand. It's like this generation that's changed now. In years to come with this whole ChatGPT is just going to be a different level, 100%. People are going to be losing their jobs. People's best mates are going to be ChatGPT. Do you know what I mean?
First of all, one of the first things he says is that he's a weirdo. And with that little chin thing he's got, I think he might have the right idea there. It's definitely alarming what he says about how people's friends are going to be ChatGPT, especially since I hear stories about people's little kids talking extensively with ChatGPT. And I just can't even imagine what it's going to be like with this new generation. Everybody talks about how fucked Gen Z is. It's like, you guys don't know the half of what the real iPad babies are going to be.
I was going to say, it makes iPad babies look like outdoorsy.
Like, I got my first iPhone, you know, when I was already into my teens, right? You know, I wasn't iPad babying.
Mm-hmm.
But these new kids are going to be like 5 years old talking to AI about shit. And like you said, it's a business. So it's going to want them to come back over and over again. And I have a feeling that as it expands and as the resources needed to maintain it are drained even further, there's not going to be a lot of quality control. And I feel like that's also happening in business, right? You're in software engineering. A lot of people in the tech world are looking to AI to do a lot of the jobs, but it doesn't seem like it is sustainable. Could you expand on that?
No, it's not. And again, with it being a business, you know, I know of people getting in trouble, firsthand people getting in trouble. They're taking company code and pasting it into ChatGPT to figure out, to find the bug, get help developing a new service, something of that nature. You have a lot of these people providing an entirely different company with their company's code. And I don't think I really need to highlight why that's such an ethical dilemma, such a problem. To be sharing, you know, your intellectual property, your company's intellectual property with another company.
There was a lawyer in Florida who got caught using ChatGPT for something. I think Andrew Cuomo, I'm almost certain Andrew Cuomo got caught using ChatGPT for his housing plan, which is so nuts because it's like, dude, you've got so much infrastructure. You've got so many people. Mike Bloomberg one of the richest Democrats in the entire world endorsed you, like you can't have someone on your team write that shit. Like how hard could it possibly be to write housing policy in New York City? Just go to the other candidates' website and rip them off. Like you got to use fucking ChatGPT for that. I know we have one more video.
Your girlfriend has seen you at your worst and your lowest, but she's still here. That says a lot about her feelings for you. This dude is using ChatGPT to act as his therapist, and it's actually brilliant. It's also definitely way cheaper than paying like $200 an hour to go to therapy. I grabbed this off Reddit here. There's some really interesting discussions in the comments. What's really cool about ChatGPT for therapy is that ChatGPT 4 has like internal memory built in. So actually the more that you talk to it, the more it learns about you and your particular situation, and the more it's able to give you accurate advice that's actually relevant to what you're personally going through. Obviously, I don't think this is a substitute for real person-to-person human interaction, but if you can't afford to see a therapist or you don't want to talk to your friends, I think this is a really great alternative. Everyone who follows me is pretty cool, so if you want to make some friends, talk to each other in the comments.
You know what? I actually want to talk about one more thing before we go. Dead internet theory. Can you explain that a little bit? Because I have a vague idea of it, but it was too scary for me to get too far into.
So in its simplest terms, it's basically at a certain point, the internet quit being held up by user-created content. It's mostly these days it's bots that are constantly scanning and creating their own posts. A lot of news outlets have been accused of using AI for these different things to write their content. And essentially the internet is now largely just a lot of bots interacting with each other.
I feel like if you go on Twitter, it's hard to think otherwise. Like the shit that I see on Twitter at this point does not seem like it's generated by humans. My DMs, when I open my DMs, it's like it's not attractive people hitting me up the way that I would be hoping it would be. It's like some account with an NFT profile picture, which is like, when was the last time NFTs were a fucking thing? Like, get with the times. Sending me some like code to get $15,000 in my crypto wallet if I just type this thing in here. Like, I'm sure there are plenty of other countries that are using bot farms. People always talk about how it's Russia. I feel like plenty of people are getting in on the Twitter bot farm. Are there any like platforms right now that you think are fairly safe from that? I feel like Instagram, I don't see that many bots.
I don't know. Have you ever seen a comment section on one of the more popular meme pages, the types that have, millions of followers, all your buddies also follow it, and you look in the comments and it's, sometimes it's an OnlyFans model, something like that. It'll take parts of the transcript. It'll make the most generic sentence responding to the video. It'll be a basketball highlight and they'll say, wow, Anthony Edwards is so athletic. Only he could dunk the basketball like that. I feel like normal people don't talk like that, Then you look and there's always like a link to some storefront or, some page that requires you to pay to view it.
Well, everybody, all I can say is don't use ChatGPT for therapy. It's really dangerous. If you ever need to talk about anything, I understand that it's hard to find access to professionals. I know there are resources online to help you. Please look extensively into that. And more importantly, just talk to me and Chris. Tune into our programming and listen to us talk, and you'll be fine. And I will state that in ink. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. More on the robot apocalypse soon.
Thanks for having me, brother.